pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have roll call, please, Maureen.
Mr. Cranes?
Here.
Mrs. Medina? Here. Mrs. Rail?
Here.
Mrs. Hutt? Here. Mr. Bembo?
Here.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, here.
Thank you, Maureen. First item tonight is our student reps report. Rachel, what you got so far?
So I don't really have much, as clubs are they're being very cautious with how they're approaching the cohort system, but I do know that the clubs that are meeting in person are only meeting for 30 to 45 minutes, as that's how they feel safe enough, and most don't have much to talk about just yet. I do know that a lot are choosing to meet virtually. Student council is meeting only virtually, so they're recording our meetings, and many feel safer doing that since we have 82 members. I do know that the cohort system is going very well. A lot of people seem to like the AB system. I do know that a lot of teachers tend to, assign, that's the word. They assign a lot of schoolwork for the remote days, which is very nice. I really like doing the remote learning at home. And I do know that mask wearing, that's my last thing. I've only seen a few who haven't really wanted to wear masks, but the staff are very quick to take note of that, and they're reprimanded and talked to, and then I see that they're much more compliant with the mask mandate. And I do know that many of the people who I've talked to feel very comfortable with the masks, that they're mandated, that people are wearing them, so, yep, that's me.
I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, thank you.
Some trepidation before the school year started, how to be accepted. Glad to
Do
hear
you,
that it's going
do you
well.
find that the students miss touching, and is it a big deal?
I think what I've seen is people, now that we're not supposed to, and the germ and how it's kind of been drilled into our head these past few months, I personally don't want to touch anyone. I want my little bubble, and I know a lot of people do. I just don't feel safe, with other people near me, so, but some, they miss going to school 5 days a week and whatnot, and they do miss, being able to go to the games and stuff, and going to practices and sitting in the bleachers and stuff, but what can you do? So, but, yeah. I'm just gonna do it.
Thanks, Rachel. We'll move on to the minutes.
Okay, I would make a motion to approve the regular Board of Education meeting minutes of August 10th, 2020.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the regular Board of Education meeting on August 10th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Next item is comments from citizens and delegations. Do we have any tonight, Marie?
No.
Okay, thank you. We move into committee reports. Ed Services, Mary.
Okay, thank you, John. Ed Services Committee met on Monday, September 8th. There was one consent agenda item. So with that, the committee recommends, and I move to approve ES1, and that was to approve Rachel Storman to serve as the CII parent rep for the 2020-21 and 2021-22 school years, and Melissa Huckabee to serve as the CII parent rep during the 2020-21, 2021-22, and 22-23 school years.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the administration's recommendation of Rachel Storman as the CII parent representative for the 2021 and 21-22 school years, and Melissa Huckabee to serve as the CII parent representative during the 2020-21, 21-22, and 22-23 school years. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and then we had 4 updates. The first one was phonics units of study. Leslie Anderson, a grade 2 teacher, last year piloted the second grade phonics unit and participated in units of study professional development virtually through Teachers College. Grade 2 teachers were given the choice to continue with Words Their Way or switch to the phonics unit of study. Teachers unanimously chose to switch. The program correlates well with the writing and reading units. Grammar, language, standards, and foundational skills are taught. At the end of the unit, students celebrate in different ways, including bringing other grade levels in to listen to silly rhymes or creating songs. Next, we had Lincoln High School student travel to France. Justine Horvath, the LHS World Language teacher, presented information regarding a planned student trip to France in June of 2021. If the trip needs to be canceled because of COVID, dollars will be refunded in full. Third, we had professional development opportunities to prepare for off-campus teaching. Roxy Phillips reviewed the summary of professional development opportunities that were available to teachers this summer to prepare for adjusted learning options and to address the social and emotional health of students and staff. In July and August, there were 22 classes offered with 549 total participants for K through 12. These opportunities provided teachers with tools to assist them in teaching off campus if needed. Comments from participants were very positive. And last we had the reopening. Roxy reviewed enrollment numbers to date, explaining parent choices between off-campus learning, brick and mortar, or Central Oaks Academy. Within off-campus learning, there are also different options that were explained. Parents are still sorting through how they would like their children to learn. And Jen Wilhorn reviewed Central Oaks enrollment. At the end of last school year, there were 180 students enrolled at Central Oaks Academy. To date of this meeting, there are 535. Also, there were 66.030 students last year. This year, we are at 152 students to date. An additional handout was provided reflecting off-campus staff as well as the number of students choosing off-campus options to begin the school year. And Craig addressed reopening in general, stating it was a great start. Overall, students and staff were excited and glad to be back in school. Masks were not an issue. Sandy had asked how busing was going, and Craig stated he was not aware of any issues. Traffic in general has been very manageable at the buildings, even with parents providing more transportation this year. And with that, I make a motion to approve the Ed Services Committee report of September 8th, 2020.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Educational Service Committee of September 8th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The minutes are approved. Thank you, Mary. Next, we have Business Services. John.
Thank you, John. Business Services met on Monday, September 8th, Tuesday, September 8th. And the meeting was called to order at 6:53. Out of our meeting, we have two consent agenda items. Anybody want to give me one held out? Hearing that. The first one is our interdistrict agreements, the 6603 cooperative agreements for students attending our virtual program. And these are from Port Edward, Stevens Point, Tomorrow River, Tri-County School District. And it's a total of 33 students coming in, 7 from Port, 19 from Stevens Point, 3 from Tomorrow River, and 4 from Tri-County. So the committee recommends and I move that we accept the 6603 cooperative agreements for students attending our virtual program from Port Edward, Stevens Point, Tomorrow River, Tri-County School Districts as listed for approval. Our second item was a report from Eric Brittnacker, our PAC director, and he gave us an update on his reopening guide for private organizations during COVID-19 and the affiliated rental fees. So he explained the rationale between that and the general consensus is to use about a third of the capacity. Our PAC can hold up to 800 students, and a third puts us at about 233, somewhere around there, people in the PAC. It's a guide for organizations during the COVID-19, so there's guidelines for using the bathrooms. Ticket sales all have to be in advance. It can't be after-door ticket sales. Explains how every other seat and every other row is to explain the social distancing. He did a very nice presentation and it looks very good. Then he also came up with, he said, because capacity is reduced, he came up with a fee structure concurrently that would make sense so that people can still have events. And these would be probably more local people, such as the people that hold the dances and that type of thing. We don't figure there's going to be any commercial people coming in to use it, and we feel that people, or he feels that people will respect the social distancing and do what's proper to protect people while using our facility. There is one legal caveat in there basically saying that we're not responsible, and it's just a general thing that's on every COVID thing right now as far as for protection of the school district. So the committee moves and I recommend that the proposed PAC reopening guideline for private organizations during the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as the affiliated prorated fee structure as a result of limited attendance capacity due to a COVID-19 precautionary measures implemented, be recommended.
Second, for
Yeah.
BS1 and BS2.
We have a motion and a second to approve BS1 and BS2. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Okay, and then the balance of our meeting, we have purchase of Odyssey software, which Central Oaks uses. And just to give an idea, I know it was talked about in our meeting, but the Central Oaks Academy in the past has had about 190 students, somewhere around there, 190 to 200. Right now, we're about 500, or a little over 500, isn't it? 560, something like that? I didn't write it down, I didn't bring it with me.
535.
535. So there's been an increase in attendance, and part of that's due to the COVID-19, and that if it was suggested that if you were trying to keep your child out all school year, that you would go to Central Oaks so that they could get the education that they need, and the help and the education they need, as opposed to coming in and out of virtual programs. And we did also have some invoices, and Ed brought us up to speed. That he thought Grove Elementary was completely asbestos-free. However, he found a little closet area that's like 6 by 6 or something like that that has some asbestos tile in it. So it's almost asbestos-free. But that building will be done after he fixes those tile areas. Okay, with that, I have to approve these board minutes on September 8th. We also have closed session minutes from September 8th and closed session minutes from August 26th to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the Business Service Committee meeting of September 8th, the closed session meeting minutes of September 8th, and the closed session meeting minutes of August 26th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion
John, I
carries.
have a question. On your BS1, you talked about the 30 some additional students at the 660301.
Yes,
That's in addition to the 152 that we had before?
yes.
Okay,
These were new as of this meeting.
okay. How many was that again?
33.
33, thank you.
33.
And there's some more coming in
And we got
new
some more
business
tonight,
too.
yeah.
Thank you for the report, John. Next on the agenda is Personnel Services. Sandy?
Turn pages. Gotta get the beige. Personal services met September 8th. We had no public comment from that meeting, but from that meeting, we have 6 consent agenda items, and they are as follows. Number 1, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 13 professional staff appointments. Number 2, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 29 support staff appointments. 3, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 1 professional staff resignation. It says pending receipt of liquidated damages, but I see from the bills that that has already been paid. 5, the committee recommends and I move to approve the new verbiage to co-curricular assignment letters. And what that is basically saying is that if we have to close or something because, yes, oh, I'm sorry, I go back to 4 after I finish 5 out of order. That if we have to close because of it, there's the remuneration is going to be prorated. Going back to 4, the committee recommends and I move to approve the 9 support staff resignations. And 6th and last, the committee recommends and I move to approve a $1,500 stipend for the chemical hygiene officer position as part of the district science coordinator position. I guess we've always had one, that's the first that I've known about it, but the things that they have to do now have increased greatly, watching all the chemicals and things. And does anybody want something held out?
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve PS1 through PS6. We have roll call, please, Maureen?
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina? Yes. Mr. Davis?
Aye.
Mrs. Heck?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Crane?
Yes. Thank you, Maureen. And I guess we don't have anything else other than approved minutes.
Yeah, I remove the minutes from the September 8th committee meeting to approve as printed.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the meeting minutes of the Personnel Service meeting on September 8th. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. Thank you, Sandy. Next item is agenda referrals and information requests. And we have anything this month?
Okay, good for the bills. I'm seeing some things I don't, that it looks like it's that we're, working with the pandemic situation. And I think what we need to do is keep track of all these different expenses that we've had because of this. I noticed there was some masks. I don't know if that money is coming out of the legacy that we got or is additional expense to the district. But I think this is something we have to keep track of because we're really in a tight budget now and the public needs to know that this has cost us X number of dollars to keep our students and our staff safe. So I think if we start now, we can go back a little bit and then just keep, we have plexiglass at different places. So I just think this is something we have to keep a handle on and know what it's costing us so we can relate that to our public.
And let's
Absolutely, and we intend to.
maybe come up with some kind of estimate for the cost increase too on your cleaning supplies.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure that, if there's a difference of 50%, we're probably using twice as much. And then if the cost per unit went up significantly, everybody's getting their piece of the pie, it seems
I
like.
think I was talking about that before the meeting, because I was trying to get a can of Lysol, which was about $5 or $6. Pre-pandemic, now they're $20 a can. So definitely it's going up.
Okay, are there any other agenda referrals? Okay, hearing none, we can move on to the legislative agenda. John's gonna give that report tonight.
Yeah, Troy had a bunch of stuff in the email there. This one is actually already expired, it was August 14th. Was DPI surveying schools, districts about reopening plans, well, it's a little bit late. We did also have a note in here about unwelcome property tax surprises await many school districts. In April, we detailed a letter that urging them to pass Assembly Bill 753, which would correct the problem, and there was no act on that. The state has allocated $1.76 billion of its $2 billion in CARES funding so far. And this one. This was a legislative, or the Department of Health Services releasing guidance for schools on mandating COVID-19 outbreaks, which we talked about the last couple of meetings as far as we have a very decent plan going with that. The news on the state's fiscal condition still has not been released, so we're still waiting on that. Flexibility could help in fuel collaboration between school districts and child care providers. That's what we hit on that. Joint Finance Committee Co-Chair Nygren, spending cuts made now will help ease next state budget. That's something he had put out there. The state indicated that state revenues have stabilized and the fiscal reality is better than they would have thought, likely when the pandemic began back in March. The most negative impact on state revenue dues of COVID-19 will be felt in the second year of the 2019-21 biennium. We reportedly noted that any decisions can be made now to reduce spending in the second year of the current two-year state budget will make next year's biennial budget easier, so lawmakers will not have to make cuts or such big cuts. Addressing his comments at one point specifically to school leaders, the longtime JFC chair said, "My advice to schools is reduce expenditures in current years so that you have cash on hand, so you don't have some cushion going into the next budget." Wisconsin Supreme Court temporarily blocked Dane County orders redistricting in Person's school. The Wisconsin Supreme Court on September 10th temporarily blocked emergency orders by Dane County's Joint City Count Health Department prohibiting public and private schools in Dane County for providing in-person instruction to most schools and students in grades 3 through 12. That emergency order was issued on August 21 and later amended to allow special needs students to receive in-person services and instructions. The U.S. Senate was putting together a skinny, as they called it, a skinny COVID-19 relief bill, rejected deal before election unlikely. That already has been basically dead in the water because the Democrats on the Hill said it didn't cover anything that they were looking for to pass on in the bill. The vote received 52 to 47 vote, but it needed 60 votes to advance the procedural hurdle in the chamber. And Secretary DeVos quietly drops controversial used rule routing more Vital CARES Act funding to private schools. So Betsy DeVos, that would have diverted additional CARES Act to private schools, have been quietly rescinded after several federal courts ruled against it. The good news for the public schools is that they will be allowed to allocate equitable services to private schools like federal Title I funds as planned according to DPI guidance presented to the approved and legislative joint finance committee. With that, that's all we have right now.
All right, thank you, John. Our next item on the agenda is the bills.
Okay, I would make a motion that the receipts be noted and the bills be paid as printed.
Second?
We have a motion and a second that the receipts be noted and bills paid as printed. We have a roll call, please, Marie.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mrs. Hutt?
Yes.
Mr. Gumbo?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mr. Kreis?
Yes. Thank you, Marie. Next, unfinished old business, update and discussion on future levy override and bond issue referendum questions.
Great, so in your packet, just to refresh your memory briefly, but the last conversation we had on this topic, one of the things that we had discussed was the likelihood or the temperature of the board for engaging in a community survey around two potential referendum questions. A proposal from an organization called School Perceptions. It was included in your packet for informational purposes and to seek possible action on engaging in a relationship with School Perceptions for the explicit purpose of surveying our community around their appetite for two potential referendum questions. One being a levy override, which would replace the referendum that took place in 2006. That would be for $2 million per year for 5 years. And then a second question, which would be a bond issue question, of which in the district there has not been a bond issue question in recent history. It's been many years since a bond issue was asked of voters. But that would be for $30 million, which would include some significant renovations to Lincoln High School's second floor, including a complete redo of the science classrooms, the science labs that are up there, which clearly as a former science teacher and a science nerd at heart is needed because of course we don't do science like we did in 1979. But more importantly, it would also include some renovations to the front of Lincoln High School and all other school facilities to have much more higher controlled entries where individuals coming to buildings would have to report to the office first prior to gaining access to any other area of the building. That of course would enhance the school safety and security at all of our facilities, and that is pretty much the standard by which schools are built now. Many of our buildings, as you probably realize, you walk into a main hall and then you can go, excuse me, tickle, you can go a number of directions and not necessarily be forced into or towards the school office. Now most people do. But very clearly, if that's the only entrance you have to a facility and having to enter through the school office or in front of school personnel across the board is the safest scenario. In addition, they're tossing around the possibility of adding a gym facility at Think Academy. This would not be a spectacular gym, it would be a gym because currently the Think building has a CAFNA gymnatorium. And it is probably undersized as well for the facility that's out there. The other, let's call it a direct but indirect benefit of that addition would be what it would offer to the community with respect to use of a full-size gym. So you're talking about basically one basketball court or volleyball court-sized gym with some seating, and that's pretty much it, nothing fancy. That would be part of this $30 million potential bond issue question. Both of those questions and the community's appetite for the direction of either would be solicited via a community survey and engagement strategy as outlined by School Perceptions. That's what you see before you here. I had the privilege of working with School Perceptions a few years back in my role as superintendent of Barron Area School District, where we did a similar process. It was only over one question, a bond issue question around a high school renovation project, where school perceptions engaged with our community and facilitated this surveying approach. To cut to the chase, the approximate cost of the engaging in the survey is about $10,000. The proposal itself is for $9,700, and then there's miscellaneous costs with postage and so forth. So it'll be right around $10,000, $10,500, maybe $11,000, give or take, with some of those additional costs. And what they do, what School Perceptions does, as outlined in the materials, is a very intentional and thoughtful, not only survey development, but then also deployment by identifying key groups that we want to ensure are represented, key demographics that we want to ensure are represented in responses. They also engage in a variety of ways: telephone, internet, and other methods that the school district doesn't necessarily have access to, or would have to figure out other methods by which we would do that. And so we're talking about penetrating a much broader audience than just district parents. It would be, residents, any taxpayer in Wisconsin Rapids Public School District. And then they provide a very nice user-friendly analysis of that data and report back to the school board, which in my former gig was presented by me, but they also will come in and present it, and frankly, I don't think that it really needs additional compensated time from other human beings if it's the same kind of report that I'm familiar with. And then from there, you have the opportunity then to think about what we've heard, the number of people that were contacted, and what the results of the survey questions, how they were answered, what that indicates. And then you can make some significant determinations in earnest about whether or not asking one or both of these questions is a good idea. I reviewed the proposal, and I didn't see it in there, maybe one of you did, but they also reference, or have in the past, a significant correlation to their surveys and referenda passage rate. And I don't want to misspeak, but it's like well over 90%, I believe, where if districts basically listen to what the survey stated and ask the question, so if it was that, yep, it looked like it was going to pass, then 90+% of the time it passed, and vice versa. And in some cases, he said that we did the survey and the data kind of indicated, yeah, I don't know, I don't think it's going to go, and lo and behold, it didn't go. So they are, I'm going to call it the gold standard, excuse me, in Wisconsin to engage in this sort of capacity, and frankly, there's not a lot of other options out there with regard to proposals and the ability of the company to deliver what School Perceptions does.
Plus they're a state business.
What's that?
They're out of Slinger, Wisconsin, they're a state.
Yes, absolutely.
Survey, would they survey both questions independently? Because I think there's a big difference between the bond issue and the levy override.
Yes.
I think,
Absolutely. So part of the process too is to articulate in a user-friendly and relatively brief format, if we do this, here's what it means to you. If we do that, here's what it means to you. If we do both of these, here's what it means to you. And there will be iterations of the survey development, and you'll see a copy of the proposed survey. But those are absolutely questions that would kind of bring taxpayers or respondents down the path of, we really think this one will pass, that one will pass, or both. See what I'm saying? So yes, you would have, the survey would be structured such that you can make determinations on either or both questions.
We're looking like in April.
That's correct.
When would this survey take place?
So if this gets board approval, I'm going to email a signed agreement tomorrow morning, and then they're going to start working on it probably immediately. And the idea is doing the survey of community members in the October-ish timeframe. I think worst case scenario, maybe mid-October to early November. If the board Well, and then the board has an opportunity to review the data, and if the board wants to take action on adopting resolutions to go to referendum, that has to happen by the January meeting.
I found one thing in there, they talk about current challenges
Yep.
in the district, and I think we have significant current challenges, and I don't think we know the full impact of that Ursel closing. So if we were to do a survey in October, November, come spring, who knows what the district is gonna be like? So I think we're in that unfortunately unique situation because of our climate here with the mill.
Well, we've been informed that there's interest in purchasing the mill,
Yeah.
so we're cautiously optimistic at this time. There was supposed to be an interested party touring the plant this week. I guess we'll know more in the near future, but
Yep.
it's not dead in the water yet.
Okay.
So let's hope for the best and see what comes out.
I mean, I think then that in case we would know something by October or November on that
I
situation.
would think so. I mean, I don't see this dragging out for months and months and months before sale. I think if there's an interested party, they'll step forward fairly quickly. We don't know the extent of what it might look like. It could be a different operation, it may not be the same. But at least it wouldn't be sitting idle, and that would absolutely help the city and the surrounding areas. So hopefully by next month's meeting, we'll have a little bit more information.
Yeah, I'm just a little hesitant of, our situation in our community. I think we have to be sensitive to what a lot of people are potentially going through now or in the future too.
Absolutely, and that was discussed with Bill Foster, the CEO of the company, as he was developing the proposal. And that is an aspect that we, of course, do not have control over. We don't have control over the pandemic either. And I think that if we do base our decision-making, which I would recommend, off of the results of the community survey, attitudes can change and circumstances can change. If 2020 has taught you anything, that's very, very true. But it is what it is. I don't know that there's any fault for asking the question.
Yeah.
And frankly, when taxpayers speak by voting at the ballot box, they speak. And there is a certain cost around asking referendum questions, but when you align it with a regular election, those costs are much less. So it's not as though we're spending hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars to ask questions that we know the answer is no on already, right? So there's going to be two things that take place. October, November, we're going to see the results of the survey, and the survey may say something different than folks feel by spring. But frankly, you can only go off of the information you have access to. If the survey data is advantageous to ask one or both of the questions, then we will also engage in community engagement campaign around the topic, an education campaign to say, hey, here's what we're planning on doing. We're planning on asking, here's the specifics, this is the tax impact to you, or maybe no impact, whatever the case may be, and running through all of those scenarios with the community. An aspect of how we get that engagement, because pre-pandemic, it's pretty easy, one would argue. You get on the agenda at the city council meeting, at the meetings of municipalities to present the topic. You conduct 3, 4, or 5, informational sessions throughout the district, 1 or 2 at the PAC, 1 out at Think Academy, 1, okay, and you engage the community in that manner. If this pandemic doesn't rectify itself relatively soon, which it probably isn't, we're not going to be able to use that format. If the weather would be nice maybe towards spring, maybe you could do some things outside, but we're going to have to figure out ways to engage folks in information sessions virtually, whether it be Zoom or Google Meet or whatever the case may be. So there's absolutely, and then of course the virtual closure and these other things that are going on. Timing is not always the best, right? And like I said, sometimes we have control and sometimes we don't. I don't think that there's harm in asking the questions, particularly the survey. We're going to spend some money to do the survey, but frankly, in order to get reasonable results, you'd have to spend money in terms of personnel in some regard anyway. And if that does look advantageous, then you have the information sessions and the engagement sessions and see where the chips fall, because as I said, it's aligned with a regular election anyway, so it's not going to be incredibly time and work intensive.
There's one other unique thing happening along with the pandemic, but due to the housing market and the cost of houses up in the Point Clover area, when I was talking to some of the realtor friends at home, And realtors, I know they said that there are quite a few people from Clover Point area coming to the Rapids area to find housing because it's much more reasonable. In our neighborhood alone, two of the houses that were for sale, both families came from the Point Clover area and bought houses here because they said we got 3 times the house for 1/3 of the cost. Basically is what they figured it out as opposed to buying a house up in the Point Clover area right now. So that's a good thing for our district because if they're bringing down kids, of course we have some more kids in our district. So that's one of the unique features happening right now because of housing pricing up in Point Clover.
The postage and things isn't included in this cost, but they must have a ballpark figure of a district our size, about what it would be.
Where's postage in here?
No, it's not, it's additional.
It's additional.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's additional, but they lay it out what it costs.
I wonder if we should have something not to exceed or whatever, they should know, so a district this size, it costs X number of dollars to mail something out, whatever.
Yeah, I hesitate because I think that's tough to say, because who knows what you're gonna need with respect to postage, and, if people have access to an online and all they need is an email, then you don't have to spend the postage, and frankly, based on the data that we have with regard to, at least, again, we have access to district family data, but one can, correlate that to a degree, is that most people have access to, some form of access to the internet, whether it be a cell phone or whether it be Wi-Fi in their home. And so sending out paper copies of a survey would be a proportionally smaller percentage of the population, but you still want to have the ability to do that if you're going to survey appropriately. Sandy, this is not going to be thousands and thousands of dollars. It's ballpark, it's going to be probably, God, I'd be stunned if it was $3,000. I don't think it's even gonna be that much.
Okay.
We did an every door direct mailing a few years back with a postcard, and it was not that expensive. We used the every door direct mailing option, and it was cheap.
Yeah.
Through the postal service.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because the cards, they said here, prepaid envelopes will cost 5 cents each. And then the current 1 ounce for business reply, if you wanted to have something postage back, is 61 cents for an ounce or less. So those would be the main costs that would be involved, and it depends if we'd want to do that, but I would think we could get it right through the postal service like we did in the past with some of those flyers.
And then the other thing was on the survey analysis, let's see. It's like the 3rd page, whatever, survey analysis, analyze data and develop pre-analysis of comments. That's optional, so that's not included in the $2,200. But then, so just those 2 things are create written survey analysis report and survey analysis report to board and community.
Yeah, so what they did, and keep in mind, their proposal encompasses broader opportunities than what we're necessarily going to ask them to do. As an example, one of the things that school perceptions will do is say, okay, you want to, build a new school and renovate 5 facilities, and they will do surveying around helping to develop a rank order approach to like your facility renovation plan. And, the granular nuance to palatability of, yeah, we like all this stuff, but we don't want you to touch East Junior High, as an example. We're not going that route. We're going the route of saying, this is a levy override opportunity, here's the dollar amount, here's the tax impact, here's what we're gonna use it for, what do you think? Here's what, you see what I'm saying? So we have already what we would propose as our plan. They also do surveying around helping develop and finalize that plan to get boards down the path of where they want to go. I don't think that we're going to need any significant analysis, so we're going to use a process much like we used in my former district, which is the board knew the questions that they wanted to ask, and the survey dealt with soliciting that feedback, rather than going through this analysis of figuring out topics and then rank ordering of importance, what we should do for a second and third.
Okay.
So we're not really looking to, we're not looking at refining the question necessarily, we're asking, what do you think?
Okay.
I don't believe there'll be any additional analysis. I don't believe that it makes sense for us to pay Bill or his staff to come up here and do a dog and pony show for the board.
Yeah.
But when we get the survey and you see that, and you have questions that can't be answered, maybe that's an eventuality. I don't think that'll be the case. And then also when we get the results, you have that capability then too, just to say, well, I want to know about this, that, or the other thing, and perhaps then we can engage further with the company, but that would be based on board action at a future time.
And we
I don't believe it'd be necessary.
probably handle it on a conference call as opposed to having them come.
Correct.
So they never come, they won't present to us in person. It'll just be the written report. Because if they come in person, is it like $600 per visit?
Correct. It wouldn't be necessary.
Okay, we could get them, make a phone or something, maybe?
Yes,
Okay,
if
all right.
necessary.
I'm done.
Any other questions?
I'd make a motion to approve of a proposal from School Perceptions to conduct a community survey process in preparation for potential spring election referendum questions to be on the ballot at a cost of $9,700 plus fees for printing and postage expense or on-site visits to be paid from the Board of Education General Fund.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve a proposal from School Perceptions to conduct a community survey process in preparation for potential spring election referendum questions to be on the ballot at a cost of $9,700 plus fees for printing and postage expense or on-site visits to be paid from the Board of Education General Fund budget. We have roll call, please, Marie?
Mr. Bembo?
Yes.
Mrs. Graham?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Mrs. Medina?
Yes.
Mrs. Head?
Yes,
Mr. Krings?
Yes. Thank you, Maureen. Next item, new business, possible action on employee appointments, resignations, retirement requests. Ryan, do you have anything new?
We do not.
Okay. Item B, discussion and possible action on 6603 agreements with Auburndale Stevens Point for students attending the virtual program, as well as Nakusa students enrolled in the Project Search program.
That is for 2 Auburndale students, 1 Stevens Point student, and the 2 students from Nakusa for Project Search.
I'd make a motion to approve the proposed 66.03.01 agreements with Auburndale and Stevens Point districts for students attending the WRPS virtual program, as well as the Nakusa students enrolled in the Project Search program.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the proposed 66.030 agreements with Auburndale and Stevens Point school districts for students attending the WRPS virtual program, as well as Nakusa students enrolled in the Project Search program. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last item, discussion and possible action to approve the WRPS Stay Connected program.
Phil, we'll turn it right over to you.
Okay, I think you guys got a salmon colored sheet there. Hope you had time to review the program. Worked with Solaris and DPI, primarily Solaris, to put together a program for our students in need of internet access that can't afford it, or they have an extenuating circumstance that they can't get it. They become homeless, so we put together a program with Solaris. Kind of outlines, the document here outlines what they have to, the families or households or students would need to do to qualify for this service. We would then become the service provider, so to speak, and make sure that the internet gets into their house. We would work with Solaris to get it installed. If they don't live in an area where there's Solaris service, we would use a Kajit hotspot, wireless hotspot for that. And then the students that live in an area where we can get Solaris, we'd actually get a hardwired line into their house for a connection for schoolwork. Basically, Solaris had some parameters that they wanted in place because they obviously have a business to run. They don't want everybody to drop their internet connection and apply for this internet connection. So they had a couple of things caveats that they wanted as part of this. So that's kind of why there's that "and" statement there. If you look at the 3 or the pieces that you have to be to qualify for this service, the "and" statement is the family doesn't currently have a Solaris internet service. So that would prevent, say, from myself from dropping my internet service and going and being part of this program. So we have a couple other pieces there as well. So that's kind of how we have this set up. It's for educational use primarily. we have it set up so they can't use it for other things. It's gonna be filtered through our, filtering software, which is why it took a little longer to get this set up, because we had to get a service set up with Solaris to try to route the actual traffic back through our filters at Lincoln. So it will be filtered internet, so it's not going to be a free-for-all type internet access. So that's a positive. I think that's pretty much everything. Solaris is going to be the first point of contact for if they have technical assistance. If it's not a Solaris thing, then they'll contact our tech support department, and then we'll go from there.
The cost is our cost.
Our cost.
We would pay for it on behalf of the family.
Yep.
Keep in mind, these are families with needs. $15 a month.
$15 a month. And there's a one-time $79.99 installation fee, which covers the cost of the router and so forth. So fairly attractive cost and price. Solaris really wanted to partner with us on this, so they really came to the table and helped out on this one. So
We've also had other districts from around the state reach out to Phil and I around the development of this relationship, because this is possible due to DPI and the state making some moves with local telecoms and school districts around the development of this kind of approach as a result of the pandemic and the number of people that are choosing to or have to learn off-site.
Do you continue to serve during the summer vacation?
right now it's set up for 9 months, but we could probably, if we talk to Solaris, we probably could, but right now it's set up for the regular school year.
So you said it's $15 a month. Is that per family?
That would be per family, yes.
And approximately how many families are we having?
We really don't know. We really have no idea. I planned on up to 100 families when I did the budgeting through the ESSER dollars. So we could have more, we could have less. Keep in mind we have also another 50 Khajiits that we have available. So it could serve up to 150 families potentially, the program. So
Are there any
so far we have about 10 requests.
outside dollars coming in for this as far as different CARES Act dollars?
The CARES Act dollars is what I have allocated right now to help pay for it.
Okay. This is a great program. I mean, this, I know we talked about it in business services a little bit. And it's good for Solaris, it's good for the community, and we know we have a fairly large homeless population in our district. So, I mean, the need is there, and it's a good program. I'd make a motion to approve of the WRPS Stay Connected program as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the WRPS Stay Connected program as presented. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Looking at the calendar, immediately following this meeting, we have a closed session meeting. There is a CII meeting on September 30th, and then we're out into October for our community meetings. With that, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.